Today we'll take enough lessons from geography, practically that is. So count yourself as having attended some field work class today, because that's where we are. Lessons from the river. You know rivers? Yeah, lessons from the river. Lessons a young person, lessons anybody can learn from the river. Lessons anybody can learn from the river. We'll project a number of them as clarity will allow us, because I realized this setting, it's not very, very clear, but you can see. Though I'll guide you on the same. Lessons a young person, lessons a student can learn from the river. I'm a serious student of nature. I like learning from nature, drawing lessons from nature. And as you know, when you want to know more about God, if you cannot get him from the Bible, you can definitely get him from nature, including from yourself. You can learn a lot from yourself. But today, allow me to welcome you to this lesson. I will, if time will allow us, we'll take like 10 of them, 10 lessons we can pick from the river as young people and as students of Cardinal Otunga High School. Lesson number 1, rivers. You know, this is just practical as it is. I request you, as we go through it, you allow your mind to navigate through rivers. Allow your mind to go through major rivers. Which major river do you know? River? Nile. River Nile. I want to believe. Have you visited River Nile? Maybe with the time you will visit it. With the time you will visit it. Another river? River? River Niger, River Zambezi, Ewazonyiro, Gucha. Somebody has mentioned Gucha. Gucha is the nearest river to this place. River Gucha. Of course, wanasema River Kuja. Imeandikwa hivyo kwa vitabu. River Kuja. Imeandikwa Kuja, River Kuja. It's just nearby here, and it has begun from a mount, it's not even a mount, hill. There is a hill around Nyamira hapa, inaitwa Kiabanyoru. River Guja has begun from Kiabanyoru and it flows to Lake Victoria. Maybe we can use it, because most of you come from within. Let us use it. Have it in mind as we navigate through this lesson. The first lesson we can learn from the river is it's always motivated by its destiny. Rivers are always motivated by their destiny. Rivers. You know, once a river begins from its source, you understand, rivers has 3 stages. We have the youth stage, middle stage, and old stage. When the river begins from its source, where it is sourced from, it will never cease moving until it has poured its water into the major body. And that is maybe a lake, a sea, or an ocean. So the first point we want to pick there from this river is it's always motivated by its destiny. So as a young person, first of all, have a destiny. Have a destiny. There is a question people like asking, and I want to ask it, but don't answer. What do you want to become at the end of it all? You are in Form 1, yes. But what do you want to become later in this life? I remember asking some young man, mtoto tu, this question. Nilimuuliza unataka kuwa nini? And then he told me, nataka kuwa mtu mkubwa. So you see, that was the answer I got from him. That's a destiny. What do you want to become? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Let us talk of 4 years. Where do you see yourself in 4 years? Of course, after you've done your KCSE, where do you see yourself? Will you move? Will you transit to the next level? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in 10 years coming? Now, that's what we talk about. That's what we call the destiny. Where do you see yourself in the future? You must allow your mind to go ahead of you and put you where you want to be. And then you start working backwards. Like if you want to become a teacher, you know what it entails to become a teacher. Then you start working towards that. You want to become maybe a what? What do you want to become? A doctor. You want to become a doctor. You cannot wake up one day and find yourself a doctor. A doctor is a destiny. You want to become a doctor. That's a destiny. Then start working from now towards that destiny. Are you there? So always be motivated by their destiny. When we say that the rivers are always motivated by their destiny, what we mean when you look at a river, it's perpetually on move. You know, rivers always, they are always on move. They are always on move until they realize their destiny. Same to you. Be always on move until you realize your destiny. And when you talk about being always in move, you know, rivers, they have one success code. Forward ever, backward never. Rivers are not known to flow backwards. They flow forward. Do you know frogs? Did you know frogs never jump backwards? Frogs, they do not have reverse gear. Frogs. One test. Hata uweke moto huko mbele, it will never flow backwards. It will never jump backwards. So a frog, just like the river, has that success code. Forward, ever. Backward, never. Pick that lesson from it. Pick it. Sorry. Rivers are always motivated by their destiny. You know, they say destinies have an habit of drawing. Destinies have an habit of drawing honors to them. Destinies have an habit of drawing honors to them. So whatever destiny you have, it will draw you towards itself. So long as every morning as you wake up, you keep reminding yourself of your destinies, however small it might be. Let me give you this statement. Small beginnings begin big endings. What did I say? So you may be in Form 1 and you think you are not ready to start thinking big. Small beginnings begin big endings. So as a Form 1, start thinking big. However small it might be seen to your mind, let it keep on growing. Anything big began small. That's why I've said small beginnings begin big endings. And the best you can do in this destiny we are talking about are what we call self-motivation. Self-motivation. There's something they call self-drive. Self-drive. Self-drive drives better than any other trained driver. When you are a self-starter, like you don't need someone to motivate you every day, you are worthy. Many people who need to be motivated by the day. So have that self-starter mentality, that every day you are able to wake up by yourself, you are able to maintain the day activities by yourself. You don't need that class prefect, you don't need the class teacher to maintain that respect, to maintain that discipline, to move forward. Self-drive. Are we there? Intrinsically, when you are motivated from within, you are better off than somebody who is motivated from without. Did you know that chicken, talk of chicks, who assisted the chick from the egg? Who assists the chick to hatch out? Who does that? Who does it? Is it the mother or the farmer? It's itself. You people are brilliant. It's itself. If you assist a chick to hatch out of an egg, you've killed it. That's why we are maintaining this. That's why we are selling this to you, that after that self-motivation, be self-motivated. Let it come from within. And that will be self-drive. Because we have said self-drive drives better than any non-driver. We move to the second point, which says, in a semaje, it is projected. Rivers are strong at youth stage. You people, you are youth. I said rivers, your geography teacher is here, you can confirm. Rivers are, they have three sections. We have the youthful stage, middle stage, and old stage. Of course, at times they call it juvenile stage, middle stage, and senile stage. Now, at the youthful stage, a river, at the youthful stage, it's very strong. When you look at its river channel, it's V-shaped, meaning it erodes everything it finds on the way. Rivers. It erodes. If it finds twigs, it carries them. If it finds stones, it carries them. If it finds a drunkard, it sweeps him. Rivers are very strong at youthful stage. So if you go to their river banks, they are very clean and well kept. If you look at their riverbeds, they are very clean and smooth because it carries everything it finds on the way. That should give you a point. That at the youthful stage, you have strength, you have the potential of doing many things that you cannot do when you are old. Are you there? At youthful stage, meaning at this age, the high school age, the high school stage, your concentration span and your grasping capacity is higher, and your retaining capacity is higher. Everything you learn here, you have the ability of maintaining it 80%. Unlike when you'll be old. So it's good you learn things you learn today, the lessons you take in class. Make sure you open yourself, you open your potential to grasp as much as you can because you have that ability. So rivers are known to be very strong at youthful stage, and they are known to move meticulously and with a lot of potent when they move down the slope, because the gradient at youthful stage is a bit steep. It also assists them to move. So when we say that they're meticulous and majestic, they are meticulous and majestic in flow, you should also be meticulous and majestic in your flow, especially in school. Are you there? And if you didn't know, let me remind you. Major rivers we talk of gain their names when they are youth. That is, at their youthful stage, they gain their names. So River Nile, it happens. I've gone to Jinja, Uganda, where River Nile begins from. It's very strong. It's very strong and it's big. The river channel there is very wide. It's known River Nile from Uganda. And it flows from Uganda to, where does River Nile flow, pours its water to? Mediterranean Sea, that is Egypt. So ukienda Egypt, River Nile is called River Nile. Ukikuja, if you come to Uganda, Upper Jinja, it's called River Nile. So it gains its name at the youthful stage. You will gain your title here and now as a youth. So if you are dreaming to become a doctor in the future, when do you become? It's now. It's now. So start practicing it now. And practicing it means you start now. You start as well as now. You begin behaving as one. You begin behaving as one. You begin emulating those who become your mentors, those who become your role models. Now, not later. Because as a youth, you will gain that name as the river gains its name as a youthful stage. That is still point number 2. There is something I want to say in this point number 2 before we move. There is what we call principle of compensation. Principle of compensation. Principle of compensation as curses and blessings in equal measure. Principle of compensation states, if you fail to do something you are meant to do now, you will be forced to do it later when circumstances will not be favorable to you. Are you there? So as a youthful stage, if the river cannot carry those twigs, it cannot carry those stones, it will be forced to carry them, because in the next point you will see where these twigs and stones are used. So if you cannot carry enough stones now in Form 1, in Form 2, in Form 3, and in Form 4, you will be forced to do it later in life when conditions will not be favorable. That's the principle of compensation. I went to some school and I saw some placard imeandikwa, walk now, run tomorrow. Run now, walk tomorrow. You know, those are blessings and the curses in a way twisted. If you are meant to run now, do what? Run now, because you have that ability. When your teachers tell you to run now, meaning to be active, do it now. Because if you do not run now, you will be forced to run tomorrow. This is what they say. If you run now, you will walk tomorrow. That is as it is. If you run today and you achieve what you are supposed to achieve when running, tomorrow you will be somewhere enjoying what you achieved when you are running, when you are walking and resting. But if you are meant to run today and you don't run today, tomorrow when you are supposed to rest, to enjoy what you could have acquired when you are running, you will be forced to run when you are supposed to rest, to acquire what you are supposed to receive in some few years ago. So that will be a curse. You can imagine those people who are multitasking when they are old. Mtu ni mzee, anafanya kazi usiku na mchana because akona watoto anastahili kulipia karo kama ni shule. Inamaanisha huyu mtu there is something he didn't do. God forbid, if his parents were able to take him maybe to school and he didn't do his part, he will be forced to do it when he is old. Ole wako, you will find yourself doing it. I want to believe if you took time and thought through that, you will not subject yourself to run tomorrow when you will be old. You will run today because you have the ability and the capacity to do that, to avoid that principle of compensation. You will compensate what you are supposed to do today, tomorrow, if you will not do it today. Point number 3, as projected. It means what? Persistency. If there is a character we need to pick from the river, is this persistency. The river is very persistent. Very persistent. Let me, I don't know whether you can see that pictorial presentation there. When you go through, when you go downstream, when you follow the river downstream, at a given point you realize that there are rocks. There is a rock. There is a rock. I want to believe you people know there is a big difference between the rock and the stone. Which one is bigger? The rock. When the river meets the rock. When the river meets the rock on its way. You know, always rocks are resistant. Always rocks are resistant. But when the river meets the rock, the river needs to be persistent in order to match up with the resistant rock. And what happens, for your information, the river, anyway, a war breaks out between a resistant rock and a persistent river. I request you to get to these two sides. A resistant rock and a persistent river. And that's life. You know, if you are not persistent in life, even in the class, there are some rocks you may never go through. So when the resistant rock is met with the persistent river, there comes out a struggle. And do you know who wins? Who wins? Why do you think the river wins? It's because it is persistent. Now, let me give you a quote. When persistency meets resistance persistently, persistency wins. Did you hear that? Yes. What did I say? When persistency meets what? Resistance persistently. Persistency wins. So persistence wins not because it is called persistent. It wins because it is persistent. When persistency meets resistance persistently, persistency wins. You need to be persistent. You need to be persistent. Once you have your destiny and you have set your goals, you also need to be persistent each and every day for you to realize those goals. So persistency is the key word here. Persistency. Persistency. How often do you persist? How often do you persist in your quest of this life? In your quest in class, in your quest towards your destiny? Persistency. How often do you persistent? How often do you persist? That's a personal question you need to ponder. How often do you persist? Like now, you people, you are at the top of your class. There is still room for improvement. Hallelujah. There is still room for improvement. And if you are not going to be persistent in your endeavors, you will be toppled. You will be brought down. But I request you to set personal standards and then start working towards that personal standards. The best you can do, the best improvement you can do is what we call intrapersonal improvement. Intra what? There is a big difference between intrapersonal improvement and interpersonal improvement. Intrapersonal improvement means if today, like this, let's say, in the previous term, you scored a C+, and you were number 2 in your class. Now I've gone personal. You scored a C+ last term, and you were number 2 in your class. Then this term, you score a B-, but you are number 5 in your class. Did you improve? Yes. On the flip side, last term, you scored a C+. You scored a B-, and you were number 5. Then this term, you score a C+, but you are number 1. Did you improve? That is it. So you people, you have understood this. Intra what? Personal improvement. Make sure you beat yesterday standards. Whatever you said yesterday, you beat it. And that's when you become like the river. Because the river does not flow backwards, as we said. It flows forward. You must move from where you are, and be where you are not for today. We move to the 4th point. But before then, let me remind you, winners never quit. And quitters never win. That is still under persistency. Winners never quit. And quitters never do what? Never win. So if you are a winner, you and quitting will not be in the same room. If you want to become a winner, maybe previously if you are not a winner, stop quitting. Be persistent. And they say winners are losers who keep on trying. What did I say? So being a loser is not final. Wanasema failure is not final. Winners are losers who keep on trying. Whenever you lose in this life, if you lost something, whenever you lose, don't give up. Keep on keeping on. Keep on trying, and you'll become a winner ultimately. We want to move to the 4th or 5th point. Fourth point. What does it say? It does what? It uses its burden to create its cause. I want to explain this further, and I request you to take this point seriously. Rivers, when they move, we said from the youthful stage, they carry anything they found on the way. In most cases, they carry stones and the twigs and the stumps. But mostly, they carry stones. That stone becomes burdensome. That's a burden. Whatever the river carries is a burden. That's a burden. In a way, it slows down its movement. Because if a river is carrying a big stone, a boulder is carrying a big stone, you must understand this. When it flows, its speed and the velocity is hampered by that stone. But the stone is beneficial in its movement. We have said it uses its burden to create its cause. How? There is a process called attrition and abrasion. You will cover this in your geography classes. Fortunately, your teacher is here. When that river carries that stone, let me demonstrate, look at me. It carries that stone and it hits the riverbank with that stone. When the stone hits the riverbank, what happens? It scoops some soil and the river channel does what? Widens. If it carries that stone and hits the riverbed, what happens? It deepens. So at the end of the day, the river course or the river channel widens and deepens. That's why we say it uses its burden to its advantage, the river. How do you use your burdens? Like now you are in school here. Sorry, but let me mention it. There could be some students coming from dysfunctional families. You come from a family where mother and father don't see each other. You may be coming from a family where people are suffering, maybe because of poverty. That's a burden. You may be coming from a family where people don't value education, but fortunately you are here, courtesy of some sponsor. That's a burden. You may be coming from a family where people are sick and money is diverted to the hospitals instead of coming to school. That's a burden. Yourself, you may be sick. There are students who are sicklings. They are always sick. That is a burden. How do you use your burden for your own benefit? How? How do you use that burden? Because the river, when the river carries that burden, it does not weigh it down. That burden is not misused. It makes use of that. Let me tell you something. And I request you to use it in life. Never misuse a crisis. Never misuse a crisis. Whenever you find yourself in a crisis, invite Christ into that crisis, and Christ will change that crisis for your own good. Never misuse a crisis. You know, people who have wisdom anyway, when it comes to, if you come from a place where there are strong winds, that's a crisis, they turn around events. They turn that wind into power. If you come from a place where there are waters moving speedily, they use that water to generate power. That is transforming crisis, transforming a crisis for your own good. So picture yourself where you come from. Which burden could you be carrying? Make use of that burden. If you come from a dysfunctional family, if you come from a family which is troubled, let it propel you forward. Let it propel you forward. Yani unakuja kama ni shule, if you come from a family, maybe your mother is terminally ill, mamako ni mgonjwa. There are some people who have been motivated from such burdens na wamekuwa madaktari. Anakuambia, mimi nimekuja shule nisome, nikuwe daktari, niende kusaidia nani? Ambaye ni mgonjwa. That is how you can transform that burden to push you forward, to propel you forward towards something. Maybe you come from a family where people are poor. You are the best. You are the best as far as education is concerned. Nobody has gone to where you've come to. Nobody has been to a school of this level. My friends, don't be prestigious. Translate that burden into something to assist your people. Anza kusema, mimi nimekuja hii shule, nienda kusaidia watu wa nyumbani kwa sababu hakuna mtu ameenda shule kubwa kama yangu. And that's how you transform your area using your burden. Just like the river uses its burden to make its way. There is a mzungu who says this, doors to success. Doors to success swings on hinges of adversity. Doors to success swings on hinges of adversity. Build strong characters, especially on young people. Adversity. Just go and follow histories of major people known in this world. Many of them come from adversities. There is a guy who authored a book by the name Think Big. What is his name? Anaitwaje? Ben Carson. Do you know the history of Ben Carson? He came from a very rich family. In fact, what we are told about Ben Carson is just mother. He was brought up by a mother, single mother. And that mother was washing clothes for other people, maybe to raise school fees and other things. I'm just using him as an example. These people who are brought up in a troubled environment, adversity. It's known, people who come from such places, they become tough in all round, and they become successful. Hallelujah. Swings. I said doors to success. Swing on hinges of adversity. Make use of your burden to advance. Make use of your burden to widen your river channel, your course. As early as this level, you people are Christians. There is somewhere in the Bible, the book of Lamentation, chapter 2, Lamentation chapter 3, verse 27, where the Bible says, it's good for a man to bear the yoke while young. It's good for the man to bear the yoke while young. So, when you are young and you have that capacity, thank God that you have found yourself in some situations which are hard to bear. Because when the Bible says it's good for a young man to bear its yoke, it means so. Because these things, you can carry them as a young person. But when you are old, that principle of compensation comes in. If you will be subjected to them, you may not make it. And it's known, hardships are known to make one wise. Always. Hardships are known to make one wise. Hardships are known to make one wise. Sio kama kwenu mna watu wanachimba visima. Kisima ambacho kimechimbwa January na kingine ambacho kimechimbwa April, ni gani kitalasti sana kuliko kingine? Ya January ama ya April? Kwa nini? Anyway, that is true. Wells dug during dry spell runs deep. Wells dug during dry spell runs deep. Because January, water table iko chini kule. So if you reach it, that well may never run dry. But if you do it on rainy season, water table iko hapa karibu juu. Utafikia maji haraka, lakini kiangazi ikikuja itakuwa imeisha. And that applies to life. Hardships are known to make one wise. You can sustain many things if you are able to go through some hardships. So thank God if you come from an affluent family, but let it not becloud your mind. If you come from affluent family, you come from a rich family, don't be cheated. Don't be cheated. Allow yourself to start. You know, you can subject yourself into some hardships. You subject yourself, like now in school here, just eat what is given. Don't demand more. That thing will shape you. It will shape you into a future leader, unlike when you could have done the opposite. We move to number what? Number 5. Number 5. Eh? We move to number 5. Yes. Number 5. Number 5. Sorry, the projector went off. Number 5. You can read it? It says, the river is known to reject its burden when of no use. If you walk downstream, you will realize at a given point, especially on the middle stage of the river, you will realize now those loose stones are thrown to the river banks. Those big logs are thrown to the sides of the river banks, meaning they are no longer of use. Because the river channel is big enough now, there is nothing ahead it will use this burden for. So at time in this life, there comes a moment you throw off your burdens because they may not be beneficial to you. Let me use the human system for this illustration. When you take food and the food goes into the digestive system of the human being, there are some junks which are thrown out as a waste. And then there are some nutrients, those beneficial, which are absorbed into the system. So the system is known to throw off things which are of no use. And the same applies to you. There are some things you need to throw off your system as early as now. If it happens like you come from those hardship areas I said, that's a burden. You've used that burden to create your destiny. Now throw it off. Don't keep on lamenting like you are. Do we have orphans here? You are an orphan. Maybe you are orphaned when you are very young. That's a burden. You have used that burden to inform your mind that you need to do something to become somebody in life. Now throw it off because it has given you a destiny. Don't move in this life with that tag, with that load. You carry it, and then you are still using it. You keep on saying, you know, I come from a family where mother and father don't look each other. Don't carry that burden anymore. If you have used it, and it has informed your destiny. Do you understand what I'm saying? Reject it. Just like the river rejects its burdens when it becomes less useful. Maybe the simplest example I can give you. When you were in primary, you had friends. Possibly, there are some people who never progressed to the level where you are. Reject them. They may not be beneficial to you. Unless they come to seek some assistance from you, there is nothing you can gain from these people. Now start getting new acquaintances. You are creating networks, new networks with people who can propel you forward. Did you hear that? There are people you surrounded yourself when you were in primary. You no longer need them because you have moved to a next transition. You have moved to a next level. We move to the next point. I think that point is enough for us. Point number 6. Point number 6 says what? Resilient in the face of barriers. When it comes to the river, when it meets barriers on the way, like we said, rocks, this point is not far away from the one we mentioned of, persistency. It's resilient. It's resilient. Resiliency, in simpler terms, is bouncing back. Bouncing back. Resiliency. Ile umeanguka, lazima tena usimame, uendelee. That's resilient. You need to be resilient. That's resiliency. You need to be resilient in this life for you to achieve your goals. Resilient. Be resilient. Resiliency. Rivers are known to be very resilient when it meets barriers on the way. And when resiliency is interwoven with persistency, always, you must move forward. How resilient are you? You are in Form 1. When you look at your grades, you realize they are not reflecting what you began with, maybe what you came in with from class 8. You need to be resilient for you to gain that glory which you have lost. Resiliency. Yes, there are barriers. There are barriers. How resilient are you towards these barriers? I want to move to the next point, but before then, I must remind you this. For you to be resilient, you must be hopeful. You must be hopeful. Do not lose hope whatsoever. The last thing you need to lose in this life is hope. The moment you lose hope, you begin dying. You will just begin dying. whenever you lose hope, the dying process begins. So do not lose hope whatsoever. When other people or when the world says give up, hope whispers, try it one more time. When the world says give up, hope whispers, try it one more time. We said you have a destiny, and there are people who will persuade you to see yourself stupid against your destinies. Keep on whispering to yourself, I will keep on trying. Are you there? Because when others see a hopeless end, you need to see an endless hope. When others see an hopeless end, train your mind to see an endless hope. And that is why you will be different from these people. We move to the next point, and that is point number 7. We have only 10 points, so we have 3 points to go. Point number 7. It says what? It does what? Resting for a major pouring. Rivers, at times, because of the human activities, reach somewhere and they are forced to rest. You know dams? Like we mentioned of River Nile. When River Nile moves from Uganda, it is never interrupted until it gets into Khartoum. Khartoum is of which country? Sudan. The moment it gets into Sudan, dams zinaanza kujengwa. Dams. And ikiingia Egypt, there are dams there. So when this river gets to the dams, where dams are constructed, that is a resting point. It doesn't give up. Just because there is a recess or a break. The resting is for a major pouring. It means when you halt the movement of the river by constructing a dam, in a way you have given it time to pile up more strength to move stronger going forward. Because when that water is collected as a dam, when it is its time now to keep moving forward, it moves with much strength than before. This is what we mean. In this life, at times we get breaks. There are life breaks. Like in school, simukuna break, simukuna games. You should use those periods for a major pouring. You are men. Let me tell you this. Men have the sixth sense, which is very rare. It's a rare sense meant for men. Yes, women have the sixth rare sense. They say it's for sense of sensing danger. That's a rare sense to female. But for male, they have the sixth rare sense, which is different. It's not a sense of sensing danger. Let me illustrate. One person, one time, was doing some clearing of bushes, and then he was tired. And then he rested below an avocado. So when he was resting, he saw a pumpkin plant. So mnajua mwongo. Pumpkin growing nearby. And then he started thinking. He was resting. Alikuwa amefanya kazi nzito. Alikuwa amekatakata vitu, miti. So he was very tired. But the mind was active. He was like, now, what was this God thinking? Anachukua pumpkin kubwa. Si mnajua pumpkin ni kubwa. Alafu anaiwekea kamuti kakona stem weak. Stem weak. That's a pumpkin tree. Sasa si angechukua hii pumpkin aweke kwa avocado. Avocado ndiye iko na nini? A stem, a very strong stem. Si ni kweli? That strong stem. And then this God took a small avocado and he fixed it on a tree which is very strong. He could have interchanged this. So while he was thinking that way, kulikuwa na upepo. Upepo kavuma. Na upepo ulipovuma, kale ka avocado, kuna avocado hapo ilikuwa imekomaa kidogo. Ikatondoka. Sasa ilipotondoka ikalenga kichwa cha huyu mtu ambaye anafikiria, ikampiga. Ile avocado haikuwa ndogo sana, lakini ilikuwa kidogo kuliko ile muongo. You imagine that ile avocado ilimpiga mpaka akaanguka. He was almost unconscious. Akaanguka chini. After some time he gained conscious. Akasimama. Sasa aliposimama tena akaanza kufikiria vizuri. Now sincerely, if it was that pumpkin which was up there, what could have happened? At the end of the day he said, no, God is God. And his things are perfect. If it was the pumpkin which was up there, I could not wake up from this. So I was using this to illustrate this point. Males have a rare sense of thinking big things when they are tired. You didn't hear that. When you are resting, during your break time, during your games time, as a male, we have that endowment of thinking big things. So make use of that resting period, like the river, and you will have a major pouring. If you want to prove this, go home. Wakati mmetoka shambani na baba yenu, it reaches a point, yule mzee, back at home, he has come from the shamba, and is in that attires of shambani, amekaa chini ya kivuli. Nenda muangalie. You will realize amekaa ameangalia lakini haoni. The eyes are open, he is looking but is not seeing. Don't disturb him, just leave him. After some time you realize if you are standing somewhere, this is something which is, these are such anyway, I'm telling you. You will realize it later. After some time, if you stand somewhere and look at that mzee, you will realize if he was seated like this and he was looking towards the other side, you see, hata ukifanya hivi, he will not see. But eyes are open. You will realize after maybe 30 minutes, it's like ametoka mahali fulani and he sits properly now. And then he will call you, or he will call his wife, your mother that is, and they will tell him there is an idea which has struck my mind. This is what the scientists say. The male akili ya mwanaume, it moves from active boxes inaingia kwa empty box when he has done a lot of work and is resting. Ikiingia kwa empty box, it gives him time to think fresh ideas when he is resting. So make use of your rest. And yule mzee akitoka hapa atakwambia there is an idea which has come, and this idea, this is how we will use it, and you will find he has begun a project. So if you want to move from where you are to the next level, make use of your resting. Breaks, games, half terms, make use of them, because your mind as a male are endowed to use that way. I just used that illustration for you to understand. We move to the second last point, third last, which is number what? Number 8. So on that resting, most things we see today, they were invented when people were resting. Did you hear me? Listen, most great things we see today were invented when people who invented them were resting. Do you believe that? Let me add something on that. Most beautiful and handsome things you see today, including you, were created when people were resting. You may not understand that. You will get it with time. Don't worry. Number 8. It says what? It knows not how to strike. Rivers knows not how to strike. Now, imagine the river is flowing, and then it gets by the cliff, where it is moving from a high level, an upland, to a lowland. You can imagine if it was you are moving from a level, an upland, like now you are moving from Maimayu, umefika at the escarpment. You are moving from Manga, umefika that escarpment. You are supposed to move to the low level, this side of Chache. You people from this Cardinal Otunga, you can see Manga Cliff. Rivers never strike when they get to the cliff. Instead, they move forward and forms a waterfall. You know, you're in Form 1, and unrest at times is reported in schools, especially in Form 3s. They are known to begin strikes. You know what happens? If somebody did not work hard from Form 1, Form 2, akifika Form 3, then anaambiwa kuna mtihani next year, anafanya strike, ili washikilie, you know, we failed because our school was on strike. Learn from the river. When you face a momentous challenge, so long as you know where you are moving to, so long as you have your destiny, you will never be scared in your movement. Just like the river, on the cliff, you will move. And instead of maybe making something, creating an injury, you will create a waterfall. And the waterfalls are known to be serious, scenic phenomenon. This is a philosophical study. I guess some of these things you understand them when you will be moving forward in this life. Learn from the river. Don't strike in this life. Keep moving. You may never strike in school, but you strike against your parents. Kula nyumbani. Maybe you are used to some amount as pocket money. Imefika somewhere, maybe from 3 school fees imekuwa nyingi, and then the pocket money is reduced. If you are receiving 1,000, I don't know you people what you receive. If you are receiving 1,000 as pocket money, you start receiving 200. Will you come to school? If you are receiving 1,000, you start receiving 50 bob. Will you come to school? Hapo mmeangalia chini kidogo. If you are receiving 1,000, you start receiving only fare ya kukufikisha shule na kukurudisha kwenu. Will you come to school? Huyu amecheka. So you see, some will strike. Anakuambia sasa hiyo shule ifanya nini? Ikae. I remember when I was in Form 2, I guess. Form 2. By the way, I was brought up by a single parent who later on died when I was transiting to the next level from high school. In Form 2, I remember I was given pocket money, 19 shillings. 19 shillings. I was in a boys' school, a boarding school. 19 bob. Na nilipewa tu hapo kwa school gate. 19 bob. Utafanya nini? By then, tulikuwa tunanunua mkate 11 bob. Half. Mkate. Half. Na tulikuwa tunakunywa uji na mkate. Unajua mwanafunzi anaweza kula mkate full na asisikia imeenda wapi. That I know. But sisi tulikuwa tunatumia mkate nusu. So I was given 19 shillings. And that 19 shillings is supposed to sustain me from half term to closing. How do you use 19 shillings and you are using mkate for 11 bob? Utatumia siku ngapi 19 bob? Hiyo ni kununua one day, hiyo ya juu ununue nini? Avocado kama inaruhusiwa. Na imeisha hivyo. Do you strike against your parents? You don't. So that should also propel you to make a waterfall. And waterfalls, for your information, most power generated, like this, the power we use here, it comes from Owen Falls in Uganda. So make use of that. Ukifika mahali unaona, if you keep on moving towards your destiny, there are some dangers there. Maybe because you are not properly endowed. Keep moving because there is life thereafter. Tunasema God is on duty. How many of you understand what I'm saying? I think that's enough. Now we move to the second point, second last point, point number 9, which says, if blocked, it finds another way. I normally use this point for university students and college students. I don't know how I'll apply it here, but let me bring it for you to understand. If it's blocked, it finds another way. When rivers are blocked in their course, when they move, they don't cease to move so long as they know where they're headed. They always find an alternative way. And in most cases, there are 4 alternatives. Either, if it is a rock, which has blocked that river, it can either go above it. That's one. Either go through it. That is two. Ama, it goes beside it. That is three. Or it goes beneath, under it. That's the fourth option. It has four options: above, beside, through it, and beneath. But for your information, the river always prioritizes going through it, through the rock. That is the priority of the river. Yes, at times some rivers go beneath and it makes what we call disappearing rivers. There are some who does that. Zinapita tu chini, zinaenda kutokea kwingine huko. There are some which go over, rarely so. There are some which go beside the rock, and it forms that rock pedestal at the center. But most rivers, especially strong rivers, they go through the rock. And that is the point I want to drive here. Keep it and apply it when you will be moving to colleges. When you will be in Form 4 and transiting to the next level, if you will not make it through the normal way given, make use of an available crack so long as you find yourself in the next level. Are you there? Like if you have a destiny, that destiny is the next room. If you did not go through the door to gain to that destiny, go through a magaji. Unajua magaji? Go through the cracks. If somebody went through the door, he's in the next room, and the other one has gone through the eavesdrop. Through the eaves, or through the cracks, he's in the next room. Are they in the same room? Yes. So long as it is legit, it's legitimate. Find yourself in the next room. There is a professor, he died, anaitwa Bantu. He told us one time, if you didn't find yourself, by then we were in college, if you didn't find yourself in the next room, just because the door was closed, and you realize there is a crack somewhere, utilize it and find yourself in the next room. You people are wise enough to use that message for your own good. Last point. If you didn't hear anything, I request you to take this. It says, it rewards anything it comes into contact with. It rewards anything it comes into contact with. That is the river. When you are on an upland, like you are in somewhere, you can see far, and then somebody asks you, how can you locate a river just by seeing, just by looking at the vegetation? What will you say? How will you locate that the river passes through that point just by looking at vegetation? The vegetation there is green than the other. Yes, that is true. Vegetation near rivers, ile miti ambayo karibu na mto, trees grown near rivers are known to be taller and a bit darker. When it comes to green, they are a bit darker. That color is intense, meaning they get something from the river. That's why I have said it rewards anything in contact with the river. There is something I did with some boys back at home when we were young. Tulifunzwa in school, and then we did practicals. Stones grow in rivers. Stones. We took 3 stones. Moja kubwa, 2 kubwa, tukaweka hivi. Then tukachukua ka stone kadogo ndani ya maji, tukaweka katikati. So we could remove it just like that. We were demonstrating something we were taught in school. So after 2 weeks, when we came back, we could not take that small stone from the midst there. What happened? What happened? Sorry? Those stones grew. The bigger stone grew closer This one grew closer. Na hii ikaongeza kidogo. And then this one was fastened in between there. We went back reporting ukweli mawe yanamea yakiwa ndani ya maji. That's what we mean there. Rewards anything. It comes into contact with rivers. Even the Bible says, Psalms chapter 1, verse 3. Inasema, you will be like the trees planted by the rivers, which will yield its fruit in all seasons. It's known, trees which are close to the rivers, blossoms all seasons. Now this is my point as we wind up. How do you reward those who are in contact with you? How are you of benefit? How are you of benefit to those who are close to you, beginning from your family? Now you are in school here. How are you of benefit to your father and mother back at home? How are you of benefit to your guardian, the one who is paying for your school fees? Your reward may not be now. How do you think you will be a reward to your family in the future? That's what we are saying here. You know, it is useless for you to go through a 4-year course, which may take maybe close to $500,000, a 4-year course. And then you move to college, maybe 4-year course, and you also squander something like $500,000. That is what? $1 million. And then you end up a drug addict. A drug addict. Then you end up a thief. Then you end up a drunkard. Will you be of benefit? No, no. Ask yourself this question. It rewards anything it comes into contact with. Have this in mind. How of benefit will you become to those close to you? Your parents, your siblings, and later your offsprings. What I was talking about as that. You will be maybe 20 years coming, 30 years coming, you have a family, and you tell your children, you know, I was in Cardinal Otunga High School, that big school, the other side, and you are a drunkard, and you are a failure. How will that be of benefit to them? But imagine you are somewhere, maybe a lawyer, you are somewhere, maybe an engineer, you are somewhere bigger, and then you report, this is where I was, and this is what I required, this is what I received. You become a role model. You become a reward to those people near you. How are you of reward to your teachers? How are you of reward to your fellow students? Are you a thief? Like if it happens like you are a bedmate to somebody, analala chicho moja. Do you hear what I'm saying? How are you of benefit to those you bother with? And may God bless us in Jesus' name. I'll beg to stop there and get back